In order to stimulate and train your abs effectively using resistance bands, you just need to make sure you flex the spine and contract your abs throughout the range of motion. And really the only exercise you'll need for this with resistance bands is a cable crunch. For this, I like to do it on either my door frame or my Iron Master Super Bench Pro. Essentially what you'll need is some kind of anchor point up above you in order to anchor the band to, and then get that stretch in the band to then contract with your abs to do the exercise. So looking at the door, here's how I would set it up. First, of course, you need a door that can close, and you need the resistance bands and a door anchor that has a little loop section on it so that you can set it up. So take your door anchor and the resistance bands, loop the resistance bands through the door anchor, then put it up into the door itself and close the door. Now note, if the door opens up towards you, this can be dangerous if you're pulling the band out away from the door, as it could potentially open your door if you don't have something like a lock. I do recommend you lock your door if you do have this. The most optimal option though is having it so that when you pull bands to you, that the door is actually closing so that again it won't open up towards you while you're doing the exercise. For me, it does unfortunately open towards me, so what I do is either put some kind of weight on the door, I put my knees up to the door on something like a pull down, but for cable crunches, you're going to have to figure out a way to either pull the band straight down, which is what I kind of focus on, or brace it so that it doesn't open. Now once you get the door anchor and band up on top of the door, and no, I do like to put it closer to the hinge of the door, but watch out for getting the band stuck in it because that has happened to me. But once you get it on top, then we're going to put our knees, or go kneeling about 2 feet away from the door and have our body actually reach out in front to then pulling the band straight down, but allowing enough tension in the band to kind of hold us up in the air. And from there, all you are going to do is try and contract your abs by contracting and squeezing them, bringing your abs closer together or your chest kind of closer towards your knees while bending at the spine. So again, this isn't a movement where you're pulling your arms. You are strictly just doing a small kind of movement where you're just contracting the core. You're not trying to throw your arms down or anything like that. It's just the abs doing the work. So you're basically going to contract through the full range of motion. Once you get to the other side, slowly change direction by releasing the contraction and going through the eccentric part of the exercise until you get to the starting position again. Then you just repeat as many times until you reach failure. So the biggest problem with this setup is going to be the anchor point. So again, it needs to be above you and high enough so that you get enough tension in the band. And then doors can cause problems if they're not structurally sound. So make sure whatever you're using is well built and not going to break when using it. Now for me, my other option is I can also use the Iron Master Super Bench Pro, which I really have come to like. It is pretty expensive, but if you get the bench with the pull-up attachment, you can set this thing up to be pretty high. And in doing so, you can get a lot of stretch in that band. Now I wouldn't pull anything towards you, but pulling straight down will be an easy setup for you, as you can just put it right up over. You don't need the anchor at all, and it is nice and secure, and I think actually better than using any kind of door anchor. But again, most of you have the door anchor, so you won't need to buy a bench or anything separate. But you could also use like a tree, a beam in a house, anything as long as the anchor point is up over your head. Now for me, I like to use handles for this as well. So I have J-hook handles I just quickly set up and use and can pull the band down with. This does reduce the tension a little bit, but if you have it set high enough, it really won't matter in the end. So I like to use this as it's more comfortable for me to hold on to those handles and do it. You could also use like my Instar Resistance Bands bar if you want to do it that way. But for me, I really just prefer the handles. You can also grab onto the bands directly, but I found this can kind of tear up your hands unless you have gloves, or you start losing grip on the bands themselves, especially as you get into the bigger loop bands. It's really hard to hold those without them kind of slipping through your hands. So that is why I like using the handles the most, as long as you have the setup for it. Now there are other ab training exercises you can do. However, most of them are kind of garbage with the resistance bands. But others like knee raises of some kind, that's probably pretty useful. You could also do like ab rollers, kind of dynamic planks where you're in a plank position but you contract the core. So there are other ones, but I like this one because you can easily add resistance over time, and it's a decently easy setup for most people. Again, just make sure that your door frame can withstand that kind of thing. But no, you probably can also look into other rotation-based movements if you're looking to hit some more like the obliques, as they kind of come across your body. So you can find one where you're pulling across the door this way. But again, just make sure the door isn't going to open on you if you do it. But that's probably the only other exercises I might look into. But for the vast majority of people, this is the one I would have them focus on first, and maybe the only one they ever need.